Hi everyone, I'm Eloise. Welcome back to day 4 of Coding Kids Microlearning Sprints. Now, before we get into it, remember if you haven't watched the videos that we've already put up, so the ones about sequencing and what is coding, and those are the ones, they're all on Facebook, so you can go back and watch them whenever you'd like. And remember, you can also do those mini quizzes as well. So today we're going to be covering the second of the 6 fundamental concepts of coding. That one's branching, just here. Now, if you watched yesterday's video, we talked about sequencing in the context of baking a cake. We talked about how, in order to bake a cake, we need to follow the instructions in order. So that might be measuring out the dry ingredients, then combining them in a bowl, then adding the wet ingredients, pouring them into a cake tin, and then putting that in the oven. Now, branching, on the other hand, refers to the concept of making a decision or instigating some kind of action based on whether or not a condition is met. In the case of sequencing, all the computer has to do is follow the instructions in the order they are received. But in the case of branching, the computer needs to make a decision on the basis of some condition. So we'll try and continue with that cake example. So let's say you need to preheat your oven. The recipe might say, if you have a regular oven, preheat to 220 degrees Celsius. If you have a fan-forced oven, preheat to 190 degrees. This is an example of branching. You're required to decide which course of action to take based on some condition. So in this case, it's the type of oven you have. But why use branching? Well, branching enables automation. So it allows machines to make decisions based on inputs or information that it receives. Let's have a look at branching in the context of the maze game that we discussed in episode 1 of our microlearning series. So you might remember that one. That was with the monkey that was moving around in the maze. We'll have a quick look at the code for this game. So that is this code just here. Now, in particular, we're going to look at this section just here. You'll see there are 2 blocks there that say if. All right, so one of the most common branching blocks that we use in Scratch in particular is the if block, which executes the code contained within it if a defined condition is met. So we'll use this block to, for example, control what happens if the monkey is touching the bananas or if the monkey touches the wall. So we call these conditions. So if you have a look inside the if block, you'll see there's one that says if touching a certain color, and the one below it says if touching bananas. Now, those are what we call the conditions. So touching color and touching bananas, those are the conditions that have to be met. So all the code contained in the block is executed once that condition is actually met. And in Scratch, the if block is one of the most common types of branching blocks. In a text-based programming language, however, like Python, which we discussed in episode 2, the equivalent of it would be an if statement. Now, if statements aren't the only method of introducing branching into a program. There are plenty of other blocks like the if-else block and the for block. But we'll try and talk about one more example with branching. Let's think about a climate control system. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, think of it as a smart aircon. Whereas an aircon blasts out air at the temperature that you set, a climate control senses the surrounding temperature and adjusts the temperature of the wind that you blast out in order to maintain a consistent temperature in your environment. What makes this possible is branching. So climate control systems have sensors that check the temperature of the environment. Then an if statement will be able to check if there are any changes to the temperature. And if there are changes, it will change the temperature of the air it's blasting out in order to maintain a consistent room temperature at all times. Now I'm going to throw the question to you. Can you think of any other examples of when branching or an if statement is used in everyday objects? We would love for you to share and type in the comments down below. Now, one last quick recap of the 6 fundamental concepts. We have sequencing, branching, iteration, arithmetic, data storage, and data in, data out. Today we talked about branching. We've already talked about sequencing. Now remember, you can click on the link below if you want to do the 1 to 2 minute mini quiz. And remember, if you do all 10 quizzes, you can receive your certificate for an hour of PD. Now tomorrow I'm going to be covering the 3rd of the 6 fundamental concepts of coding, and that one's iteration. I look forward to seeing you all then. This is Eloise signing off. Bye.